Since I first tasted alcohol when I was 13 years old, I have loved it. It was the single greatest thing I had ever felt. It kind of worked in the natural flow of life because that insecurity, that despair, that poor self-esteem, that anxiety, that depression, it wasn't so powerful yet. But as I got older, alcohol became my solution to everything. What I wanted to do is confess something that goes on inside me in sobriety, as someone who identifies himself very much as an alcoholic. And I only want to do this so that, one, I can stay fit mentally and emotionally and I'm not keeping these things to myself. But two, as it pertains to my platform here on YouTube, I can connect with someone who might need to hear this. So I can only speak for myself, but when I was out there running and gunning and drinking all the time, and when my life revolved around getting drunk, it wasn't always so clear why I was drinking. Something that I believe to be true is that when we, as alcoholics or addicts, when we're out there in our disease and we're drinking and using all the time, it's a normal part of our life, we aren't entirely qualified to speak on who we really are and what we really want. My self-awareness was very, very poor as a near daily drinker. Your world gets really small and you kind of just act. Not only are you physically addicted, but you're in a loop of mental obsession that can only be described as simple and destructive. But as you get sober, there is an opportunity at least to start to dig into causation, right? Start to become more familiar with the way your brain works. And for me, I'm discovering that with a therapist, a drug and alcohol therapist. I'm discovering that also in a 12-step program while working with a sponsor in that 12-step program. The confession is that I'm starting to realize sometimes when people tell their stories and share with me what their bottom was, what led them to get sober, I find myself getting thirsty. When I hear about drunks being drunks, there's a part of me that still goes, oh, God, that sounds good. I couldn't sit in my own skin for more than a day usually when I was still drinking. I couldn't be with myself for more than about a day or two before I needed relief. I didn't understand from what. I couldn't even identify that it was relief I was seeking. I was just trying to have a good time. But I needed relief. When you get sober, one of the most challenging things for me has been learning how to be in my own skin and live between these ears on a consistent basis in a healthy way without needing escape. Alcohol was this perfect escape that really worked for me until it didn't. And so when I hear people talk about the misery of their drinking and the weird things they did, and I get thirsty from it, where I'm like, oh, that sounds good. It is a stark reminder. It is a stark reminder of how very far I had gone with my drinking and how very alcoholic I am. Because despite all the gifts that sobriety has afforded me, with the work I've put in, the faith I've bestowed in my 12-step program and the leadership of my life, there's still that part of me that thinks it just sounds really good to say fuck it all, to run off, and to be with my best friend again until the bitter end. I don't want to act on that instinct anymore, but I do want to address and acknowledge that instinct inside of me that still lives, that monster that still lives inside of me that just wants permanent escape to the bitter end. I kind of use it as fuel for the fire to keep pushing down this road of being sober and being in recovery and having adult responsibility and being willing to learn about myself and do something different, because there's a part of me that wants to self-destruct. There's a part of me that thinks alcoholism just sounds great. And that is really, it's just interesting. It's just interesting because I was miserable at the end of my drinking. I'm spiritually bankrupt, physically bankrupt, emotionally bankrupt. I was so bad off, and yet there's still a part of me that misses that. And that is my confession, and I'm okay with that. I don't want you to think I'm telling you this because I think something's wrong. I don't. I'm confessing this so that you know that having those thoughts It doesn't give me personally a license to go back out there and act on them, and it doesn't mean anything's wrong with me. It just means I'm an alcoholic. And I'm an alcoholic trying to be responsible, trying to be fit, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, and trying to be sober today. And that part of me still lives in here, and that's why I have to work so hard and revolve my life around being sober, because I still have instincts to say screw it all. I still have a part of me that longs to self-destruct, but I have no doubt that that will lead me to suicide, institutions, jails, or death, hospitals. It's the only way I can end up long-term in that space, and I really don't want to be there, no matter what weird voice in my head still gets thirsty over hearing about people's low bottoms. I can identify that the alcoholic in me is still alive and well when I hear those stories and I think those thoughts. I'm like, okay, that's why I'm here. It helps remind me who I am and where I belong. And me personally, I belong sober and in a recovery program with all my heart. It's the only way that I can act my way into better thinking, because there's no prayer I'm going to think my way into better action. I've proven I can't do that. And I just wanted to confess that to you in case you ever get down on yourself for just thinking some sick thoughts. I don't take it as an issue of my character to think those things. I am my behaviors, not my thoughts. And these are things I need to come to terms with. And that's why I like sharing them with you guys, so we can all be on the same page and there can be transparency among us as men and women who struggle with addiction. It's a big deal that we're sober and that we try to be, because it sometimes can feel like the easier, softer way is just to go grab that drink. For me, I know I've thought that in the past. It's just the easier, softer way. This hurts too much. I hate how I feel. But it was getting harder and harder to be okay in my own skin the older I got. And beyond that, I was starting to accept more and more that I was just a hopeless alcoholic. And that's a scary space to be. So I have to guard my sobriety now. I have to come to terms with these instincts that are so destructive. And I have to have faith that everything's going to be okay so long as I do the next right thing. I follow leadership and I stay out of my own way. And I act my way into better thinking. That's all I got. That's the confessions in early recovery, early sobriety. I appreciate you. Share your experience, strength, and hope in the comments below. If you're struggling to get sober, know that I fully understand. I've been battling this since I was young, and I'm 31 years old now. And it is the single greatest battle of my life, but it's a battle worth fighting. And I have hope in my heart today, and that's invaluable to me. It's invaluable to me. We'll see you guys in the next video. I look forward to reading your comments. Peace.